It was a quiet night in a small provincial hospital when Father Giovanni went into cardiac arrest. During those harrowing 30 minutes of clinical death, he experienced something that would forever change his life and his perception of the afterlife. What he saw in the eternal darkness left him shaken and traumatized. And when he returned to life, the memory of what he had witnessed haunted him endlessly. The moment his soul left his body, Father Giovanni found himself engulfed in an oppressive and endless darkness. The feeling of void was palpable, as if the darkness itself had a mass and was crushing him. Then, without warning, he was transported to an infernal dimension, a place of torment and despair. Before him stretched a vast expanse of infernal circles, each one filled with fire and flames. The screams of the damned souls filled the air, a chorus of agonizing cries and inexpressible wails. The souls were trapped in burning flames, and infernal demons roamed, torturing them mercilessly. The demons had twisted and monstrous forms, and they took sadistic pleasure in inflicting endless pain upon the souls. The priest watched in horror as the souls were burned, crushed, and torn apart. Each circle of hell seemed to have its own form of torture, and the pain that permeated the place was palpable. But it was when he approached a specific area of hell that his terror reached its peak. In this particular pit of hell, Father Giovanni saw a multitude of souls, men and women, who seemed to be in particularly intense suffering. These souls were gathered in a cramped space, and every time they attempted to move, the pain intensified. Their suffering was exacerbated by a particularly cruel form of torture. Fire burned their intimate parts with glowing brands. The priest recognized that these souls were not only tormented by demons but also subjected to additional punishments related to the specific sins they had committed on earth. Horrified, Father Giovanni realized that these souls represented those who, during their earthly lives, had committed the grave sin of divorcing and remarrying. Unaware of it, they had thus faced a sin that God had not forgiven them. Now, they were condemned to eternal torment in that pit of suffering. The sight of these souls, trapped in their damnation, screaming and pleading for help, was a devastating blow for the priest. Every time a soul was tortured, their screams mixed with the demonic laughter of the demons, creating a sinister and chilling concert of suffering. Father Giovanni felt their anguish, and the awareness that these souls had had the opportunity to avoid this torment, but had failed to do so, struck him deeply. The vision of this infernal place was so intense and traumatic that, suddenly, the priest was sucked back into his body. He woke up in his hospital bed, with a pounding heart and a cold sweat on his brow. He was shaken and profoundly disturbed by what he had seen. From that moment on, Father Giovanni lived with the weight of that experience. He could not forget the images of hell and the screams of the tormented souls. He dedicated himself to preaching fervently, warning people of the grave danger of sins like divorce and remarriage, explaining how crucial it was to maintain spiritual integrity. His mission became one of saving souls from eternal torment, and his infernal experience served as a warning to all who listened. Father Giovanni carried the weight of his vision as a divine mission, hoping that his words could prevent even a small portion of the suffering he had witnessed.